And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, March 29th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the Jets, a little bit of drama surrounding them, recent drama involving Woody Johnson, their owner, and Robert Saleh, the head coach. So we'll get into that to start off the show. Then in the second part of the show, we'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys, and there's some rumors out there that both Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook, a pair of running backs, are eyeing the Dallas Cowboys, and maybe a reunion between Zeke and the Cowboys is in the works, or maybe they go after Dalvin Cook. So we'll get into that, how the Cowboys should approach that, because right now the running back room is kind of thin. So we'll talk about that. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about a trade proposal from Mike Tannenbaum, the former GM, now working for ESPN, involving the Vikings and the Cardinals. So we'll talk about that. I'll give you my opinion on it. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about Bryce Young and something that Adam Thielen was talking about, how Bryce Young's first year went, some of his comments regarding that. And we'll talk about what to expect from Bryce Young in year two. So with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Jets, which is a team that I've actually talked about a lot recently, from the signings and and things like that. But now we're going to get into something else, which is there was a supposed heated argument between Woody Johnson and Robert Saleh. Now this was reported by Colleen Wolfe of NFL Network. And Woody Johnson did come out and say that, because this happened at the owners' meeting, and Woody Johnson came out on social media and refuted the claims made by Colleen Wolfe and said that this didn't happen. So then Colleen Wolfe came out and she, tweeted an apology. But yeah, so supposedly they had a heated exchange, and that's what was being reported. So Colleen Wolfe stated on the Around the NFL podcast that she heard about the alleged dispute from a reliable source, but later corrected the timing, stating it occurred on Sunday night and not Monday. She issued an apology to the Jets organization for the distraction caused by her comments, emphasizing that her her intent wasn't to break the news, but to provide insight. But yeah, you had Woody Johnson coming out and saying that didn't happen. But there was some kind of exchange between the two. And I think that there had to be some sort of exchange because, I mean, listen, the Jets, they've just been making headlines for things like this. I mean, go back to the stuff that came out about Robert Saleh and, asking people on his staff who leaked some things, and he was asking for people's cell phones. It wasn't a good look. It just seems like the Jets, they are in the news for the wrong reasons. And I think whatever this exchange was, I mean, it comes down to this. The Jets had high expectations going into 2023. And everything that could have went wrong. They traded for Aaron Rodgers. Now, I mean, you had Nathaniel Hackett, Robert Saleh, and Joe Douglas fly out to Rodgers' home and say, listen, we want you to come play for the Jets. And Rodgers made that decision. He came out on the McAfee show. He said his intention is to play with the Jets. And for Jet fans, they were through the moon. It was unbelievable that this was going to happen. They got Rodgers. You're seeing all the videos of him throwing to Garrett Wilson in practice, and Jet fans are like, wow, we're actually going to have good quarterback play in 2023. And that lasted for 4 plays. And the Jets have a really good defense. They got talent on the offensive side of the ball with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. But Rodgers goes down, and that was it. That pretty much derailed their season. They went 6-10, 7-10, and there were certain points where you were like, maybe the Jets could somehow find a way to keep themselves in the playoff conversation. Rodgers comes back, and we go from there. But it just never happened. So this comes down to just Woody Johnson is, he was upset because this team has talent, and they're still, finishing below 500. So, yeah, it just, I think that had to be, there had to be some kind of exchange, and it's because of what has transpired over the last couple of seasons. But yeah, so Woody Johnson said, all this nonsense about a heated argument between Coach Saleh and me at the league meeting is absolutely false. It is yet another irresponsible report from NFL Network. Please disregard. So again, this is regarding Colleen Wolfe's report, or what she said on the podcast. But this is what she said on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it. So she said regarding my comments surrounding the Jets on the Around the NFL podcast, no, I was not at the annual meeting, and yes, I was told of the exchange between head coach Robert Saleh and Woody Johnson by someone in attendance. Others on site Sunday night have since reached out and described the interaction differently. My intent wasn't to break news. I leave that to the insiders. My sincerest apologies to the Jets organization for the unnecessary distraction during such a crucial part of their offseason. And yeah, that was her statement that she made. Woody Johnson did say that Saleh and general manager Joe Douglas have seen me about as mad as I can be with what was going on. We have all this talent, and we have to deploy talent properly. So I think they all got the message. This is it. This is the time to go. We've got to produce this year. On Monday morning, Saleh addressed reporters for the first time since the end of the season. So he was asked about Johnson's pointed comments from February. Saleh told reporters, Woody provides a lot of good insight. He really does, regardless of what the tone may or may not have been. The important thing is the message, and he's delivered a lot of really thoughtful, good messages that have helped us progress, especially during the offseason. It'll help us during the season, so his words are welcome. He's the owner of the football team, and his frustrations are shared with everyone. Yeah, I think it's just an owner that's had enough. You bring in all this talent. You got a talented defense. You bring in a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you go 7-10. This is the time now. Joe Douglas went out. He added Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith and John Simpson to the offensive line to improve it, because that was a major weakness of the team. And that was a concern that I had going into the season with Aaron Rodgers behind center. And, of course, 4 plays, he ends up getting hurt. You do that. You adjust the offensive line. You also sign Mike Williams, which I think can pan out for them. You still got that defense. Healthy Rodgers. This team should be competitive in 2023. And if it's not, then Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas are gone. Like, they have to be. And it's just, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I may think differently, but I'm going to be the minority and say the Jets are going to have a really good season in 2023. I'm going to go against the grain because I know a lot of people are going to say Rodgers is going to get hurt again, and the season's just... And the other thing, too, is Zach Wilson is still on the team. And there's a possibility that he could be on the roster going into next season. Which, if that happens, there's more drama. Because, again, knock on wood, if Rodgers gets hurt again and Tyrod Taylor gets hurt and they have to call upon Zach Wilson, Jet fans are going to lose their minds. I think some of them are already losing their minds, the fact that he's still on the team. Because the Jets aren't getting any offers for him. They might have to release him, but they don't want to have that dead money. So he's still on the team. It's And that's really the big knock on Joe Douglas is just the quarterback position. You drafted Zach Wilson with the number 2 overall pick, and it just did not pan out. And then they went out and traded for Aaron Rodgers, which, again, at the time, great move. But he ended up getting hurt. So this is a big year for the Jets. And, Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, I mean, if Woody Johnson is showing off his frustrations to them, whether it was with this recent exchange or, like Saleh said, like Woody Johnson said, they have seen him really angry, him and Joe Douglas. Talking about Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, their jobs are on the line. This is it. They have to deliver, because if they don't, it's going to be a new regime, and who knows what that means for Aaron Rodgers, because if Rodgers goes out and he doesn't play well, do you move off of him too, or do you bring in someone else? Again, what makes me nervous is if they don't have a good season and Saleh and Joe Douglas are gone and they keep Rodgers and then they promote Nathaniel Hackett as their head coach. He becomes their next head coach. Now, again, I could see that happening. But I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think it's definitely a possibility. But again, if the Jets go out and don't have a good season, or if like Rodgers gets hurt again, I don't know. I mean, I really hope it doesn't happen. I really hope Rodgers doesn't get hurt again. I don't want to see it. I want to see him go out and have a good year. One more good year. Maybe get to a Super Bowl somehow. And ride off into the sunset if you win. Because if Aaron Rodgers wins the Super Bowl for the Jets, he will forever, be an all-time great for the Jets. Just from winning a Super Bowl and it being like his first full year starting for them. He'd already be an all-time great for the Jets. For the Jets. I mean, he's already an all-time great as it is, but I'm saying like he would be one of the greatest Jets of all time. But again, it's just odds are stacked against him. The odds are really stacked against him. And it's happened before, and he's gone out there and he's proved the doubters wrong. I mean, he a couple years ago won back-to-back MVPs. Now, he has suffered a significant injury since then. He had a down 2022 season, so yeah, things have started to trend down for him, but when he's doubted, I've doubted him at times. He's come out and he's proved the doubters wrong. Except maybe in the playoffs. But I think there's still some good football left in him. And he's got to go out there and prove it. And depending on what he does this season, I mean, it's really going to impact a lot of people's jobs. Because, again, Jets don't have a good year. Whatever this exchange that Woody Johnson and Robert Saleh had, well, the next exchange is going to be Saleh being gone, being let go, and Joe Douglas being let go. So this is a big year for the Jets. I mean, I don't blame Woody Johnson for being upset. I mean, again, the Jets have a lot of talent. The defense and some of the guys on the offensive side of the ball, Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, like I said before. Breece Hall, great year too. Especially in the second half of the season. He was great. So, this is it. I mean, the Bills are going to be weaker next season. The Patriots are rebuilding. The Dolphins, they had to let a lot of pieces go. There's still some questions with Tua. But, the Bills and the Dolphins are going to be good. But they had to let go of some guys. If the Jets are healthy, they can make some noise in that division. So, we'll see what happens, but yeah, just more Jets drama, not something that you want to, all right, and my camera's acting up. So we'll fix that when we come back from our first break of the show. When we come back, we'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys and or Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook eyeing them. And and we'll see if there's a possible Zeke reunion in the works. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.